I found a hidden room behind my fireplace. What I found inside is tearing my family apart. A few weeks ago, my husband and I bought a 1920s fixer-upper in a quiet New England town. You know the type, charming on the outside, full of strange quirks on the inside. Slanted floors that make marbles roll on their own, creaky staircases that groan in protest when you walk too fast, antique glass doorknobs that stick at just the wrong moment. Every room feels like it's hiding something. The previous owners hadn't lived there in decades, and the place had clearly been neglected. Still, we saw potential: original crown molding, vintage tile under the decades-old carpet, even a sealed-up fireplace in what used to be the study. It felt like a project we could handle together, something romantic in a gritty, HGTV meets haunted house kind of way. Last weekend, we finally got around to tackling that fireplace. It had been bricked over at some point, but the job was sloppy, almost like someone just wanted it out of sight, fast. We started chipping away at the drywall behind it, hoping to expose the original brickwork. Instead, we found a door. Not a crawlspace hatch. An actual, wooden door. Small, maybe 4 feet high, and strangely ornate for something hidden behind a wall. It had a little iron handle and what looked like hand-carved trim around the edges. No knob. No lock. Just waiting. We hesitated, obviously. Joked about it being Narnia or a murder room. But eventually, curiosity won out. My husband grabbed a flashlight, and I eased the door open. Behind it was a narrow, dusty passage that led to a room no bigger than a walk-in closet. The air was thick and metallic, like rust and old pennies, and it hadn't been disturbed in years. Spiderwebs clung to the ceiling like curtains. The walls were bare wood, and the only light came from our flashlight beam slicing through the dust. That's when we saw them. 3 suitcases. Old, faded, the kind with buckles instead of zippers. They sat in a neat row against the far wall, like someone had left them there in a hurry, or deliberately placed them. Each had a luggage tag tied to the handle with twine. The first was a boy's name, written in a looping child scrawl. The second had a girl's name, faded almost to illegibility. Both names we didn't recognize. The third suitcase, though, was different. It was larger. A little newer. And the tag was clearer than the others. It had my husband's mother's full name on it. He stared at it in silence, not moving, not blinking. Then he said something that sent ice down my spine. "She disappeared when I was 8, he said quietly. No one ever found her." We debated calling the police. It felt like the logical thing to do: mysterious hidden room, suitcases belonging to missing people, a letter from a woman declared dead almost 30 years ago. But something about the moment felt fragile. Like if we let anyone else in too soon, the truth would collapse under scrutiny. Or worse, vanish entirely. So we opened them ourselves. The first suitcase creaked when the latches snapped open. Inside were children's books, The Velveteen Rabbit, Where the Wild Things Are, the kind with cracked spines and pages that still smelled like the 1980s. Folded next to them was a stack of crayon drawings, stick figures, houses with chimneys, a scribbled family of 3. Tucked in the side pocket, a small wind-up music box in the shape of a carousel. It still played a few tinkling notes when I twisted the key. The second suitcase held clothes, mostly small dresses, socks, and hair ribbons. A worn stuffed bear rested on top, one glass eye missing. Someone had stitched a name into the bear's paw, Lucy. My husband didn't recognize the name, or the items. His hands trembled when he touched the bear, but he shook his head. "Not ours," he whispered. Then came the third suitcase. This one was heavier. More carefully packed. We had to kneel together to open it, the hinges groaning as if reluctant to reveal what had been sealed away. Inside were stacks of letters. Dozens. Maybe more. Some yellowed with age, others newer, all meticulously bundled with string or rubber bands. They were addressed to someone named Joseph. My husband froze. That's his legal name. He never uses it, always goes by Joe. I stared at him, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. I handed him the top letter. The envelope was worn but sealed. The handwriting was familiar, delicate, and I could tell, just from his face, that he recognized it. He opened it with shaking fingers. Read silently. Then handed it to me. It was dated 1997. The year his mother died in a car crash. Most of the letter was ordinary, sad, longing, loving. Mentions of birthdays missed, questions about school, apologies for not being there. But the last line chilled me. They'll never let me see you again. If you find this, please remember, I never left you by choice. He went pale. I asked if he was okay. He said nothing for a long time, then finally whispered, I don't remember much. I was 5 when she died. Or, when they said she died. We sat in silence, the letter shaking slightly in his hands. I wanted to say something comforting, but the words wouldn't come. Because in that moment, I wasn't sure what haunted me more, the fact that his mother may never have died at all. Or that someone had gone to great lengths to hide the truth. I started digging. I couldn't help it, the letters, the hidden room, the suitcase with her name on it, it all gnawed at me. I felt like I was walking through a dream, except the deeper I went, the more real everything became. I went to the town hall first. The clerk was polite but confused. What was the name again? She asked twice, frowning at her monitor. There was no death certificate for his mother. No obituary. No record of any car crash in the area in 1997 involving her or anyone by her name. It was like she'd been erased. I spent hours combing through newspaper microfilm archives in the local library, half hoping I'd find a tiny mention of the crash, something, anything. But there was nothing. Not a funeral notice. Not a missing persons report. Not a whisper of her name. That's when I knew something was very wrong. The next Sunday, we went to visit his father like we always do, roast chicken, football on TV, familiar routine. I waited until my husband stepped outside to take a call before I brought it up. I found something, I said quietly. In the house. Behind the fireplace. His dad stiffened. Fork halfway to his mouth. There was a hidden room, I continued. And, suitcases. One had her name on it. There were letters. His entire face changed. I don't mean he looked angry, I mean he transformed. The light in his eyes shut off. His jaw tightened like stone. You don't know what you're talking about, he snapped. You're digging up ghosts. Leave it. But there's no death certificate, I said. No record of a crash. It's like she just vanished. Drop it. His voice cracked like a whip. Then, more quietly, almost to himself, you don't know what that woman was. When my husband came back in, his father stood up, left the table, and went into the garage. He didn't say goodbye. We fought that night. My husband and I. He begged me to stop. Said it wasn't worth tearing open old wounds. That maybe his dad had made a mistake, but it didn't matter anymore, she was gone, and we should just let her rest. But I couldn't. It felt like we were standing on the edge of something awful and true, and if I stepped back, I'd never know what it was. Eventually, after 3 nights of silence between us, he caved. He called his aunt, his mother's sister, someone he hadn't spoken to in years. I sat beside him on the couch, heart pounding, listening to the ring, then the soft, startled voice answering on the other end. She was quiet for a long time after he asked. Then she said, almost too softly to hear. Your mother didn't die, Joseph. She was taken away. Your father lied. We confronted his dad the next day. I'll never forget the look on his face when we walked into his den without knocking, no small talk, no Sunday visit smiles. Just the question hanging in the air like smoke. What happened to Mom? At first, he tried to deflect. Claimed we were misremembering, letting our imaginations run wild. But the weight of what we knew was too heavy to ignore, the letters, the sealed room, the suitcase with her name on it. My husband wouldn't let it go. Finally, his father sat down. Let out a long, exhausted sigh, like the truth had been sitting on his chest for decades. She had a breakdown, he said, not looking at us. Started accusing me of all kinds of things. Said I was hurting the kids. Said she was going to run. Take you and your brother and disappear. My husband said nothing. Just stood there, arms folded tightly across his chest. I did what I had to do, his dad continued. To protect you. To keep the family together. She was unstable. I paid someone, his voice faltered. I paid someone to make her go away. No one would listen to me. They'd believe the mother. So I made sure they couldn't. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I had her committed. Quietly. A private place, upstate. She didn't have any family left who'd fight it. But she did, my husband said quietly. She had us. His dad didn't respond. She sent me letters, he went on, pulling the folded one from his jacket pocket, the one dated 1997, written in that looping, careful handwriting. Dozens of them. You told me she died. You let me think she was dead. I couldn't have you growing up thinking she was some victim, his father said bitterly. She was sick. She would have ruined you. I stepped forward then, holding the final, unanswered question in my hands like a burning coal. But there's something I don't understand, I said. This house. The hidden room. The suitcases. You only bought it after she was gone. After you had her committed. So. I looked at my husband, and he turned to his father. And he asked the question that's haunted me ever since. Why were her things hidden in this house, Dad? You didn't even own it when she disappeared. The color drained from his father's face. He didn't answer. He just stood up, slowly, like his legs were made of cement. And walked out of the room. We're staying in a hotel now. It's not fancy. One of those chain motels off the highway with humming ice machines and the kind of curtains that never quite close all the way. But it feels safer than the house. Safer than the quiet. My husband hasn't really slept in days. He spends most of the night sitting at the small desk by the window, hunched over the copies we made of the letters. Flipping through them again and again, like the words might shift under the light, reveal some hidden meaning. He's convinced now, convinced she was never taken to a hospital. That she never even left the house. He thinks she was kept in that room. We hired a lawyer. Quietly. There might be a police investigation soon, we're being careful. We've kept everything digital backed up in multiple places. We even gave copies of the letters to a friend in case something happened. Because things have started happening. His father won't answer our calls. We've tried 3 times. Voicemails, texts. Nothing. He hasn't even been home. His truck's gone. The neighbors say they haven't seen him in days. And then, last night, someone broke into the house. We got a call from the local police around 2:30 a.m. A neighbor heard glass shatter. The back door had been forced open. Nothing valuable was taken, none of the tools, no electronics, not even the cash we left in the junk drawer. But the letters? The suitcases? All gone. The room behind the fireplace was empty, like none of it had ever existed. Except I still have the final letter. I made a scan. I keep the original in my purse now, folded like something sacred. If you find this, please remember, I never left you by choice. And now, he's remembering. Little things, fragmented memories, coming back like splinters. Screams. A lullaby, just a few lines of a song he hasn't heard since he was 5. He started humming it yesterday without realizing. I recognized the melody from one of the music boxes in the suitcase. He's quieter now. Withdrawn. Like the truth is trying to force its way out, but it hurts too much to say. And last night, just before dawn, I woke up to him mumbling in his sleep. One word. Over and over, just under his breath. Basement.